Hey everyone, Donal here from FinOps for Finance, and today, for the first time, I'm joined by a very special guest. We have Lewis Cowell on the line. He is a FinOps recruiter based down in London, but I'll let Lewis do his thing and introduce himself.
Thanks for having me, Danelle. Good to see you. You've gone all fancy on us now. I believe you was using Zoom before, right? But this Riverside thing's pretty cool.
Always be learning, always be evolving.
That's it. That's it. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, so I'm a technology recruiter. I've been doing this for 10 plus years now. So my background is in recruiting. I was initially DevOps, platform engineering, SRE talent up and down the UK. So I did that for a very long time, working for a couple of big agencies in the city. And almost by accident came across this thing called FinOps, right? So I was speaking to a bunch of CTOs and CIOs in the UK, doing the whole sales pitch, asking them what their problems were, what's keeping them up at night, and just by pure luck, FinOps or cloud spend, rather, I didn't even know it was called FinOps at the time, but cloud spend popped up as an issue like 5 times in 1 week. So I thought, okay, there might be something to this. I should probably look into this. I don't normally pick up on trends, so this is a rarity. So I looked into the market, and it turns out that nobody had been moving things into the cloud with any kind of consideration for cost, which blew my mind a little bit. I thought surely this isn't a new thing, and it turns out it is a fairly new thing. All the clients I've been recruiting for years and years were moving everything into the cloud at hyper speed, but no consideration for cost whatsoever. So I did a bit more digging into the market and looked at the kind of discrepancy between supply and demand for talent
Mhm.
within that space. And there was no one focusing on FinOps at the time, which is odd because recruiters are normally the first ones to jump on a new
Yeah.
trend and ruin it for everyone. So I thought, okay, this is a no-brainer. I'm going to look into this. And then fast forward, kind of 6 months or so, I quit my job. I got some investment from my business partner, and we started Optimized. So we're the world's first FinOps dedicated recruiting firm. We focus on the US market and the UK market, contract, permanent. And yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit more context into what I do.
Very cool. Really like biting the bullet and going for it by going all in on FinOps. So a lot of people might be seeing a similar trend to yourself and thinking from a career perspective, I want to go in there. And like you say, recruitment tends to be a lead indicator. You're obviously at the vanguard of that, leading the charge. So that's pretty cool. So if these people are looking at this trend and they're seeing FinOps come up again and again, but they're from a in a non-engineering background, how might you advise them to kind of start looking into FinOps?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a question that pops up a lot. As you know, with any kind of new trend that's growing at an almost parabolic rate, which FinOps is, a bunch of people are flooding into the space. It's hyper competitive. You typically get three types of backgrounds that move into FinOps. You get obviously, as you know, the techie side, DevOps, software engineers moving into FinOps. You have the pure finance side, which makes a lot of sense. They've got that finance knowledge and have to make the transition into having a decent baseline of cloud knowledge as well. And then you've got somewhere in the middle with your TBM, procurement, ITAM, and SAM folk. So it's a very difficult market to recruit for because you have so many different backgrounds that you can come from,
Yes.
data analysis, finance. But talking from a pure finance background, the first thing you need to do is establish some form of knowledge within one of the cloud service providers, AWS, GCP, Azure. So I would encourage anyone to start by doing either your AWS Cloud Practitioner, Google Digital Leader, Azure Foundational, one of those. Just pick one and study it, get
Yeah.
up to a level where you're confident talking about it to technical folk, which can be a bit of a transition sometimes for
Yes.
finance folk, as you probably know. Um, but the difficult thing about FinOps is that you need to be able to face off with multiple different stakeholders, techies, finance, C-suite. And if you can't speak the tech lingo to a decent degree, you're not going to get any respect from the dev teams. They're not going to listen to you. It's a very delicate balancing act. So you need to be able to bridge that gap between finance and tech lingo, which is as we know what FinOps is all about. So that would be step one for sure.
And I suppose meeting them halfway, because someone, if you have a baseline of knowledge and you've gone to the effort to learn that, someone can see that you're kind of looking to meet them halfway. You mightn't have the deep technical understanding, but being able that they're not kind of starting from a real foundation level, that there's something to work with. And I
Yeah.
suppose, if you excuse my French, you can smell the bullshit a small bit as well. Like, if otherwise an engineering person might just be able to fob you off with like saying some technical jargon. If you can kind of smell the BS to a degree and maybe ask another question, it'll add significantly more value to the business.
100%. Yeah, people respect it as well if you've gone out of your way to make the effort to learn their kind of language, and like you say, they can't start speaking technical Cantonese to you and kind of fob you off. So yeah, you need to be able to smell the bullshit and decipher what people are really saying. So that's step number one. Step number two, this is becoming more and more prevalent in the market and more important in the market. It wasn't to start off with, but now it is get your FinOps certification, the FOCP.
Okay.
It's a great foundation to learn the fundamentals of what you need to be doing within your role. Now, the reason why this is so important is because FinOps is such a new area. Internal recruiters, HR teams, etc., they don't really know what it is yet, right? An internal recruiter will get a FinOps position. They'll be like, "What the hell is it? Finance? Is it tech? What's going on here?" Because they'll
What
have,
does ChatGPT tell me that I need? Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. ChatGPT, what is FinOps? So, no joke, they will go on Google and type in what is FinOps, and what's the first thing that pops up when you type in what is Cloud FinOps on Google, right? FinOps Foundation pops up, the FOCP badge. They are subconsciously looking for that badge or that certification because they feel like that's the kind of North Star. So, getting that under your belt is, just from a knowledge perspective, worth its weight in gold for sure. I did mine. It's helped my role as a recruiter dramatically, being able to talk the lingo. Not quite the full lingo yet. Don't get too technical on me because my eyes will just glaze over. But yeah,
Enough to spell
getting
the BS and have that meaningful conversation though, and
exactly,
that's a starting
exactly,
point. Yeah.
and enough to be able to talk a little bit of BS as well. So
Yeah.
it's a two-way street. But yeah, absolutely, that is probably step two, and I would highly suggest putting that badge at the top of your resume if you're looking for a role, because what you want is recruiters. Fun fact for you: recruiters spend on average 3 to 5 seconds scanning a CV or a
Okay.
resume. I do the American market now, so I have to say resume a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm speaking to you, so I'll say CV. And they spend about 3 to 5 seconds scanning it before they decide to either keep reading or to move on. So you need to make it abundantly clear what your intention is, what your knowledge is, sorry, what your skill set is, and whether you're qualified for the position. So having that badge at the top, along with one of the cloud service provider certifications, that will set you up well when you're being reviewed by internal talent teams, etc.
After this, I'm off to update my CV to tweak it around. But that's a really 3 to 5 seconds.
I told you
Whoa.
to do this.
Yeah.
I told you to do this. You still haven't done it. I'm disappointed.
That's really good. Um, and so they've got their FinOps certification and they've put it at the top of their CV. They've started working on the cloud foundation piece with one of the main providers. Is there, and this is going a bit off topic now, but any particular, because there's three and they're all broadly similar, is there any one in particular that you're seeing kind of more of a market for than the others? Because if someone's starting new, a cloud is a cloud, they mean all the same to a non-technical person.
Yeah, I mean, AWS are always going to be the market leader.
Hmm.
It's the most natural one that people go for. But if you want to be a bit more specialist, and you can add a little bit of extra money onto your salary or your hourly rate, you can go down the Microsoft route. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I would encourage people to do a couple of different certifications because a lot of clients, especially in the US, are multi-cloud these days.
Yeah,
So, you can stick with one, probably start with AWS. There's plenty of good courses out there. I think I'm using a cloud guru at the moment.
yeah.
So for someone that comes from a finance background, starting off with AWS and then maybe venturing off into GCP or Azure would be a good starting point, I think. But I don't think it matters too much.
It's
It's
yeah, it's
eeny,
the
meeny, miny,
concept that
mo.
yeah, yeah, and it's showing that you've kind of gone out there and, like you said, a lot of the foundation level stuff is the same. And I know
Yes.
the AWS Cloud Practitioner, the training video for that, it's one of the best ones I've ever seen. It's actually entertaining enough, and multiple speakers, multi
Hmm.
media kind of. So that is a pretty good one. But no, it's
Absolutely.
good to know. Um, so the candidate has done all this stuff. They've got their FinOps certification. They've got their cloud piece. They picked their cloud. But so is everybody else. As you said, the market's been flooded with these finance, non-technical people. They see the dollar signs because the money is better, even if you're moving down a level or staying at the same level. As I always say, I don't care what they call me. It depends on what they pay me,
Yep.
and that's where it's more lucrative. How does someone differentiate themselves then from everyone that's got those kind of base layer certifications?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. It takes a bit of work. It reminds me of all the way back in like 2014 when DevOps was kind of on the rise, right? And every systems administrator known to mankind became a DevOps expert overnight. So, it was very, very hard to differentiate yourself, differentiate and as a recruiter, to differentiate the pretenders from the real people that can do the job. So, number one, I'd be involved in the community on LinkedIn. There's plenty of people on there. The FinOps Foundation does a great job of kind of bringing everyone together on that platform for both educational purposes and networking purposes. So get on the summits, comment on people's posts, make sure that your LinkedIn is looking slick, because a lot of people trip up. They spend a lot of time on their resume, but then people look over on their LinkedIn and it doesn't match up at all. So,
Yes.
make sure that that's uniform between your CV or resume for my American
Yeah.
folk, and your LinkedIn profile. So that's number one. Number two, breaking into the FinOps kind of space when you're coming from a finance background. It's very difficult, like you say, because of the competition. But if you're already in a position and you're already in a role with a company, you can ask them what they're doing about cloud cost optimization. Everyone wants to hear about money saving opportunities, right? You'd be crazy not to. I guarantee if you go and speak to your CFO, your CTO, and you're like, do you know we can save some of this money we're spending on the cloud just by doing a few simple things? They're going to listen, right? Their ears are going to prick up. So if you can maybe start to affect some sort of change within your current position, you're already starting to gain some sort of commercial experience, and that's going to put you ahead of the people that aren't doing that, the people that are unfortunately out of a job. So you can almost, carve yourself a route to FinOps from inside the organization already. I'm not saying that everyone's going to go for it, but
Yep.
it's worth asking the question for sure. So there are
And you,
two things that you could do for sure.
because you could even kind of create your FinOps role within your organization, I suppose. If they haven't looked at it before, said, I've been doing this FinOps stuff, can I look at our cloud bill? You start generating some savings. They say, do you want to do this full time? Maybe you do it 20% first, do a bit more as you generate some savings. Or like, maybe you don't need to look externally. Not, and that's not what a recruiter wants to hear. But
Yeah, don't
maybe
do that.
maybe you can create your own FinOps role, and maybe then that serves as your platform to move on because you move internally from accountant, financial accountant, business analyst, whatever it is, to FinOps analyst or working in the infrastructure optimization piece, and then you're positioned without having to make a move, and they're paying you already. It's they've nothing to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. I've spoken to a bunch of people before where they've been moved sideways into more of a FinOps position. But by the time that they speak to me, the conversation normally goes, I'm kind of doing FinOps here, but it's about 20 to 30% of my role. I want to focus on this, I want to move on. So, they've already made that kind of sideward step. They've already, started getting some form of commercial experience, and now they're ready to move on to into a full-time position. So it's quite common that that happens. And companies are very sneaky as well because they will move you sideways into a full-time FinOps position, but your salary and your pay will stay exactly the same. So there's a lot of people out there being underpaid for doing cost optimization work. So if you're wondering whether you're being underpaid, come and have a chat with me, and I'll tell you straight away.
Geez, that's the best selling line ever, Lewis. You need to say nothing else. Yeah.
My LinkedIn inbox is going to go wild now.
That's great. And speaking of inbox going wild and looking at, I suppose the FinOps market overall. I know it's kind of it's in its infancy and it's evolving all the time. But I suppose given what you see on a day-to-day basis and the people you're seeing, what's your view kind of on the job market overall and how what it looks like currently?
Yeah, it's I think we're still very early. Like you say, people have differing opinions on this, but you and I and everyone else that's already working in the FinOps space, we live in this kind of FinOps echo chamber, right? Because it's all we see on LinkedIn, and we think everyone knows about it, and we think it's gone mainstream, and we think everyone's doing it, and they're not. So, if you take yourself out of that bubble, the FinOps LinkedIn bubble, I'm speaking to companies every single day in the US, in the UK, scale ups, Fortune 500 companies. Not everyone is doing this, and not everyone has the knowledge to know how to go about doing this. So we're still very early. Um, it's growing rapidly. I feel like the US is definitely the leader, of
Yeah.
course. It was born in
Yeah.
the US. The UK is starting to catch up slowly. We're still, I think, a couple of years behind the US. But there's some great little hubs popping up in Europe and in Germany. Israel have got a huge kind of FinOps hub coming out of there. Some great talent, some great companies coming out of there. And we're starting to see a lot more contractors coming to the market now.
Okay.
So everything was full time and permanent at the beginning, but now people are starting to get 3, 4, 5 years experience under their belt. They're starting to foray into specialist contract positions, statement of work, outcome-based solutions. So that shows that the market is maturing. So right now, as we speak, what we January 12th, nothing happens in January, and
Yeah.
uh, last year was one of the quieter years for FinOps hiring. I think the year before was a lot more buoyant, but I still think it's very early. So anyone that's getting into the market now is setting themselves up for 2, 3 years down the line for sure. So I think it's a great career path. So I'm not sure if I answered your question what the market's like at the moment. At the moment, it's January 12th. It's dead as a door now. But
Yeah.
February, March, it normally starts to pick up for sure.
But even what you're saying about like the contract based and the statement of work based, that's quite interesting. And what do those kind of tend to look like? Is it, oh, I'll be a contractor with you for we need someone for 6 months to get something the baseline up and running, or we need someone to kind of pop in every couple of months or years to keep us honest. What do those kind of look like?
It's normally a 3 to 6 month engagement, right? If you want to hire an experienced FinOps professional, they're expensive, right? There's not that many of them around. They're expensive. How do you know that you want to commit to a long-term investment and a full-time employee for, in America, it's 180, 200 grand. So what companies are doing, yeah, it's not like that in the UK. So
I was like, geez, I must have a call with my boss. Um,
cut it in half and then cut it in half again, then you've got the UK rates. But no, people are looking to see what kind of ROI they can get from bringing in someone for 3 to 6 months to set up a baseline before they commit to a long-term resource. So I'm seeing a lot of companies now opt for either a 6 month day rate or hourly rate contractor to come in, establish a culture of cost accountability, start putting things in place, start making some recommendations around low-hanging fruit, tooling, etc. Start putting in chargeback and showback policies. And then also people are looking to very, very niche consulting firms to do outcome-based statement of work solution. So these are the three things we want to get in place in X amount of time, 3-4 months, and we want a guaranteed outcome, and it's paid on milestones. So a lot of companies are kind of moving more towards that as well. So it's a bit of a mix, but normally it's because they're worried about committing to a long-term
Yeah.
resource before they've seen any ROI. So they'd rather, a lot of companies were doing it wrong for a long time. They were hiring very junior FinOps talent and expecting them to cure all of
To
their
fix it all.
solve all. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's my 50 million a year spend. Go and wipe 30% off of it. Go build a
Yeah.
FinOps practice. Go pull these different people together and do it in 6 months. And they get 6 months down the line and they go, FinOps doesn't work. So,
Yeah.
that was happening for a while. I think people have kind of stopped doing that now.
Or the CTO has spoken to the CFO has been like, our cloud bill is out of control. They're like, oh well, I hired a FinOps person, so
Yeah.
tick. But it's
I
yeah.
paid him 40 grand. Well, is he
Yeah.
not doing anything?
That's, and I suppose for someone who's kind of starting out and they're looking like at those kind of FinOps analyst kind of roles, are they coming because the market is evolving and people have a better idea of what they need? Are they more coming in, joining a team to kind of do, I won't say grunt work, but some of the kind of the more tactical stuff rather than the strategic view, or does it depend on the organization size and what they're
It
looking
it,
at?
it, it it depends. This is one of the things about FinOps as well. It all depends on what your spend is, how material it is, um, what you're looking to achieve, and obviously what your budget is. It's not a one size fits all, which makes it so difficult, right? There's a lot of positions out there which is to go and join an existing team,
Yep.
which is fine. And there's a lot of positions out there where companies are looking for someone to come in and set up a FinOps practice from scratch. Now that's an entirely different beast.
Yeah.
So, you're going to need someone with some skin in the game who can wear multiple different hats, right? So it's such a varied industry and people can come from all different types of backgrounds. So it makes my job a nightmare
Yeah.
because I can't pin down where people are coming from, but I'm starting to slowly piece it together. We'll get there in the end.
Very good. No, that's brilliant, Lewis. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. If people want to blow up your inbox and find out if they're underpaid, and all that other good stuff, where can they hit you up?
So as a recruiter, I spend my entire waking life on LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn 24/7, Lewis Cowell. You can find Optimized at opztalent.com. So we've got a new website now, so check it out.
Very fancy.
Um, but yeah, take a look. It looks good. And yeah, so email, LinkedIn, the website. That's pretty much it. Hopefully, you'll put a link in the description.
Yeah, I think that's how the YouTubers say it. Yeah, the link in the comments below or whatever it is. Yeah, so
That's it. That's
all
it.
those details will be down in the description, so people can click on the link and get in touch. But that's brilliant, Lewis. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Chat to
No
you soon.
problem. Thank you for having me. And listen, I think what you're doing is awesome, by the way. I think this whole series is great. It's going to help a lot of people get into work. So happy to help whenever. Maybe we'll do another one.
Thanks so much, Lewis. Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.